Hello Gemini, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for August for the Sun or the Ascendant. As ever, I'm going to give you the key strands to look out for. Please stay with me. I will dive deeper to give you in forensic detail all the exciting developments. Now, the big news for you this month is on August the 20th, when Mars, the planet of passion, arrives in your sign, where it's going to stay through to March the 25th next year. This is really rare. Usually Mars takes 6 weeks to transit through each zodiac sign. Because of a retrograde which begins on the 30th of October, it's a much more extended journey. There is a complicated relationship with Neptune which is going to occur through October and November, and if you'd like to know more about that in detail, please check out my Neptune retrograde video, my special video. But also, this is a month when Mars in your sign is influential in its right angle with the new moon, which occurs in Virgo on the 27th. So I need to share about that with you. And of course, your ruling planet is Mercury, and that makes its way through 3 zodiac signs this month. So that's pretty nimble activity. And it's important to share about that because the third of those transits can be particularly valuable to you, I feel. So that's the big standout news. Stay with me for more. If you would like to ascend above this zodiac broadcast, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can give you a roadmap that can guide you for the rest of your life. Also, in my special package of 30% off, you can get a 12-month personal forecast. Now, all of this is based on that unique data, so no 2 charts are the same. Yours is completely individual to you. Please see the link below for more. Finally, I've just punched through the 100,000 subs mark on YouTube. If you could help me to get to 101,000 as quickly as possible, please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. If you've already subscribed, thank you so much. Please stay with me for more. So Gemini, as this month begins, so the Sun and your ruler are in Mercury, are in the sign of Leo. Now, Leo is the 5th zodiac sign, but for you it's the 3rd. So how you think, how you interact with people, especially on an everyday basis, something you have a gift for, that really is emphasized at the very start of this month. As I mentioned before, Mercury is going to be very nimble. So on the 4th, it moves into the sign of Virgo. It governs Virgo like it governs your sign. But for you, that's house 4. Now, Mercury moving through house 4 can be a bit challenging. It can see us letting ideas going round and round our mind and finding it a bit more difficult to express them. Because there is a full moon which occurs this month on the 12th in the sign of Aquarius, which is your higher ideals. I think Mercury being in the 4th house and that full moon are asking you to choose your words and your thoughts as best you can this month. Now also, as you come into this month, Mars, which I have highlighted to you, is going to move into your sign on the 20th. It does continue its journey through your 12th house, and it may have been stirring up quite a lot of debris from your past. Old wounds that you thought that you dealt with could have become much more active, and that may have led to some surprising energy coming to the surface, tension, or even some tears. But from the 3rd through to the 12th, Mars is in a square with Saturn. And Saturn's in the part of your horoscope to do with travel, higher education, publishing, higher ideals, contracts. So the inference here is that something that's important to you, very, very important to you, that feels very, very sensitive, if you feel someone is being grossly unfair on something, it could lead you to feel much more on edge at times even a little bit your temper getting to the surface. So just be conscious of that. But on the 11th, Venus makes its way into the sign of Leo. And you can imagine Leo is a sign with swagger and it has a lot of charisma. Put Venus, the planet of allure, in the sign of Leo, and your words, something you have a great skill with and a great dexterity with, can take on more luster. So before the end of this month, I think you could have some very important conversations. Now, it's possible that you may actually be very direct and honest to someone. Often you have an ability to be very dexterous, so you can flex, and sometimes the accusation is therefore that you're not always particularly consistent with your ideas or always particularly sincere. I think this is really unfair to Geminis as a whole. You can't help it that there are lots of different components to your nature, or that you can get on with lots of different types of people. But I think Venus moving into Leo, and the fact that the Sun goes face to face with Saturn from the 12th to the 17th, and Venus goes face to face with Saturn in the last week of this month, suggests that there can be some big heart-to-heart conversations that are going to go on. Now, possibly it could be an expression of a philosophy that you have, and you could encounter someone who has a very opposing view, and that can be challenging. Then again, it could be an opportunity for you to share your ideas in a way where you and your personal expression have more gravitas, so you can articulate yourself with a degree of presence, and people can recognize that what you say is actually what you really mean. So it just depends. Astrology very rarely influences very rarely work out in a one-dimensional way. Not least, it depends on our unique circumstances of how we pull down the energy that's being manifested above us. But all this month, Saturn, in that part of your horoscope to do with travel, to do with widening your horizons, being more adventurous, and obviously Saturn can limit all those desires. Well, Saturn is broadly in a square with Uranus, which is in a very psychological part of your situation still. Now, Uranus, I think for not all Gemini people or subjects, but for many, has been seeing you a bit on edge, your nervous system overcooked, adrenal energy hard to turn off. If you've been lucky enough to find ways to raise your profile, especially through your higher ideals, and reach more people, say for example, if you've got a website or a YouTube channel, or you're a writer, these are great ways to channel Uranus, because Uranus is activating your deeper subconscious. But Uranus, mythology-wise, the ruler of the sky, is very much the planet of truth. But it could be some uncomfortable truths are going to come to the surface as Saturn and Uranus square. So anything to do with past legacies could have a habit of resurfacing between now and, to be honest, pretty well the end of 2023. Think back to last year. This aspect had 3 exact passes, and it was also very active at the start of this year. So that will give you a bit of an idea of what you can expect this time round. The other thing that I think happens with astrological influences that are repeated is that we actually get a lot better at dealing with them. So this time round, you will have had the experience of before and how this particular aspect has been active in your situation. So for some Geminis, this may have pushed you to bring your sense of identity more into the open, because Uranus is asking you to be as authentic as possible about areas that may have been vulnerabilities to you in the past. And Saturn in the 9th house is asking you to be as truthful as possible. So for some Geminis, this can be a chance to reveal who they really are in a very brave way, and it can be very cathartic. So please don't see this as an exclusively challenging influence. Now on the 12th, the full moon in Aquarius, which is the sign of the collective of us all, but as I say for you, house 9, so very Sagittarian, that is in a square with Uranus. So for the following 2 weeks, I think these buried energies, these more psychological shadow energies, can have a big impact on your conversations, your thinking, but also the viewpoints of others. And don't be surprised if someone confronts you with their view of you, which is very different from your view of a situation. So, you know, a few people could be teased into the open. It may not necessarily be easy, but I think with the Sun going opposite Saturn from the 12th to the 17th and Venus from in the last week, you can at least convey the importance of your value system, and it's vital that you do that. Now on the 16th through to the 20th, Venus in your 3rd house of Leo is in a sparkling alliance with Jupiter in your 11th house. Jupiter may be in retrograde. Some astrologers might argue that this means that it's less fortunate. I think retrogrades ask us to go to the more philosophical side of situations. Jupiter doesn't just govern the sign of Sagittarius, which is about being happy-go-lucky, living in the moment and just going for it. It's also the primary ruler, the traditional ruler of the sign of Pisces, which is much more spiritual. So I think what's going on here is that you could have a connection with someone. There's the potential for people to oppose or challenge or be difficult, but then you can have a connection with someone that's absolutely beautiful. And these are the 2 planets of fortune. Venus lesser benefit, Jupiter greater. So something really lovely can unfold for you around the 16th to the 20th. Could be someone in your circle holds a little bit of a light for you romantically. Maybe your ideas are going to gain greater traction. But then on the 20th, Mars moves into your sign, bringing to an end a potentially tricky and bumpy 6-week period of Mars going through your 12th house. And as I mentioned before, because of the retrograde that begins on the 30th of October, this is an extremely extended transit going on through to the 25th of March next year. So Mars in your sign is going to bring some Aries qualities to your nature and your situation. And that means living in the moment a bit more, bringing some fire to your approach. Yours is an air sign, so therefore you use your intellect, you use your tongue and your ideas like a foil. There you go, sire, I'm giving you my foil. And you're very, very good at it. But Mars is bringing some passion in, and that passion saying, listen to your instincts, your more primal instincts of manifesting your individuality, thrust, and that can be really exciting. Now, also, we have on the 23rd, the Sun moving into the sign of Virgo, which is like your sign, mutable. That means it flexes. But for you, this is home, emotion, family. And of course, you've had your ruler in this location from the 4th. But as much as Mercury may have seen you thinking about family matters, maybe even feeling a bit more sentimental, because one of the things about being a mutable sign is that you can be quite attached to the past. And perhaps Mercury being in Virgo has helped you to sort of maybe, you know, get some things together that are no longer relevant to you. You know, some old sentimental stuff that has been important, but maybe Mercury's been pushing you to just process what that item meant and maybe release it. So the Sun moving into Virgo would be a great time to declutter. It would be a good time to think about how you live in the space you live, or to even consider moving altogether. Now Uranus goes into a retrograde on the 24th, and of course Uranus is in that 12th house, very delicate area. It's going to go on to the 21st of January next year, and this is why the square with Saturn is going to be elongated through pretty well to the end of this year. So your truth, you must embrace your truth, and if that means that some elements of your vulnerabilities come more into the open, try to be philosophical about it. But at the same time, also be conscious that if you're someone who's not really so much in touch with your shadow side, Uranus is going to give you a bit of a crash course in reality by pushing you to confront things because of the responses you get from other people, sometimes very unexpectedly. However, your ruler moves on the 26th into its third location of the month and into the sign of Libra. And this is house 5. This is joyous. This is fun. And also, of course, Libra is very much about relating. So you can relate to some family situations, I think, towards the end of this month. But on the 27th, when that home family emotion new moon occurs, which ordinarily would give you an enormous platform to springboard into September and make changes or make improvements in those areas, it is squaring up with Mars in your sign. So you could be very impatient about changes you want to make around where you live or family matters, and just more personal, sensitive strands could see you being a bit more reactive and defensive than is usually the case. It's coming at a very raw level, visceral level, towards the end of this month. However, in the last week, Mercury forges a dazzling link with Mars, and that's in your sign. So if you do need to persuade someone of your ideas, you're going to do so with panache but passion. But there is also a link between your ruler and Pluto, which goes on from the 20th to the 25th. I should have told you about this before, really. So this is before it moves into Libra. So here you're thinking about a home matter, but maybe a contract linked to finance. So maybe there's going to be some money that comes to you for a legacy, or maybe you're talking about a lease or a mortgage approval, or maybe you're just diving deep to understand the psychology of your situation with greater crispness, and definitely Mercury and Pluto is, you know, a very perceptive a link to get deeper down into ourselves. But then in the last week, Venus, as I mentioned before, does go into that opposition with Saturn. So your words are going to be challenged this month, but they are still incredibly important. But words linked to the intellect is not really the issue here, Gemini. That's your usual modus operandi. What you're being asked here is to manifest your truer feelings, articulate the deeper part of your nature, have the courage to say how you really feel, whether it's about an issue around a neighbour, community issue, locally around you, online, expressing some very deep, sentimental, emotional parts of your nature may not necessarily be easy, but with Saturn and Uranus on your case, but the passion of Mars moving into your sign, seize the opportunity to go for it and show just how dynamic you can really be.